I am a STEMscopes Professional Development Manager for the Southeast region, and presenting along with me is Michele Cozza. Michele, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I, just like Ashley, am a manager for professional development, and I'm part of the Northeast, the Midwest, and the Pacific Northwest. So working in all different areas, but Ashley and I, our jobs pretty much overlap. So we work throughout the entire country. It's an awesome job.
Yes, it is. And today we are going to be talking to you about synchronous and asynchronous virtual learning opportunities through STEMscopes. So I guess I can ask, and if you could put this in the chat, are you a current STEMscopes user? Have you heard of STEMscopes? Maybe you are just here because you want to learn more about synchronous and asynchronous. But if you'll just put in the chat, do you use STEMscopes? Do you even know what STEMscopes is? No, never heard of it. All right. Oh, we have a yes. I've heard of it. Yes. Well, great. First time this weekend. We've just adopted STEMscopes. STEMscopes is the best. No from Las Vegas. STEMscope school for 3 years. Ooh, Dana. Wow, cool. I can't remember where you're from, Dana, but we're glad that you are here. So today what we're going to be looking at is we are going to be talking about components within STEMscopes. So don't leave if you don't use STEMscopes, because this is really just an overview of doing synchronous and asynchronous virtual learning opportunities. So please stay, you'll find benefit to this session, I promise, even if you're not a STEMscopes user. So today, our learning goals, we are going to look at when you're teaching in this virtual environment, let's streamline the planning process. Sometimes planning can get overwhelming, especially in this virtual learning. So we're going to give you a process to follow that makes it very simple. We're going to look at essential elements in a lesson. We are going to be using the STEMscopes resource. However, the curriculum that you have chosen to use in your district or your school, you probably have some of the same components. So really we're going to look at essential elements in a lesson, and we're going to look at how we're going to plan with those. And then the last one, we're going to create a lesson plan based on those elements. So those are our learning goals. We're going to help you look at a lesson, how it can be used asynchronously and synchronously. So Michele, would you like to talk about our learning process?
Absolutely. So I'm talking about streamlining the learning process. Now, this doesn't matter. You can use this process whether you're using STEMscopes or not. It doesn't matter. But in working with teachers across the country, Ashley and I have come up with a process, and our team has come up with a process to kind of streamline this instruction. So, starting kind of with that backwards by design, starting with your end goal. So you have to determine first, what is that end goal? What do you want your students to walk away being able to know and do? So you're going to have to unpack the standards, take a look at that, and then decide, what is your summative going to be? What are you working towards with your students? Once you determine that, you're then going to go ahead and introduce a phenomena and use an experience, could be a video, etc. But what you're going to want to do is continue to have that baseline there for a shared experience, and that'll be with that phenomena. Then going into experiences. So choosing maybe just, 1 or 2 experiences, all leading the students toward that end goal or that summative. So, and being able to explain the phenomena that you have introduced, right? So experiences are chosen very specifically. And then that student explain, which is your sense making. So once they do those experiences, how are you going to make sense of those science concepts? So choose activities that would help the students make that sense making, and then making connections, which would be additional options. This is an optional component, if all leading back to that end goal and that summative. So what other items can we use to make sure the students actually, complete that summative, and we've covered all the no's and do's based on the standards.
All right, so this is very exciting, guys. We are going to put in the chat this planning document. Yes, it says planning with STEMscopes, but please stay even if you don't have STEMscopes, because you can change it to just planning. But this is a document that you are going to have access to, and I am going to pull it up, and we're just going to go over it together. My goodness, if I could escape. All right, so this is what the document looks like. When you click on it, you will see that we are going to, this is our planning page. We're going to plan on the 5E lesson sequence. And so what you're going to notice first, in just a minute, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to break down that performance expectation or a standard into a know and do. And you're going to have to make a copy. This will make you make a copy of it. So we encourage you to make a copy and save it to your Google Drive. Then as we go through this training today, you'll see that there are going to be 5 different steps. So step 1, just what we had in that graphic, we're going to start with the end goal. What do we want to do? How are the students going to demonstrate their learning? So we're going to start with that summative. Then step 2, we're going to look at how can we engage our students? How can we stimulate curiosity and excitement? And we're going to go over these more in depth. Then step 3 is going to be that explore, explain cycle. So what's the first hands-on experience? Then if I scroll on down, you'll see connected to that is we always need to connect that hands-on experience to a sense making. So what are we doing that the students are explaining what they have learned? Then if you scroll on down, you'll see that this one actually has, we've given you 2 little boxes for each one. So we're going to do a hands-on, then they're going to explain it. Then we're going to do another hands-on, and then they're going to explain it once again. Then if you scroll on down, step 4 is making those connections. So remember, these are those optional go deeper activities. And then step 5, the end goal is what is our end goal? What's that summative? What is our plan to make it towards that summative? So everybody has a copy of this in the chat. Save it to your Google Drive because that's what we're going to be going over together today. So let's get started. Let me go back and share my screen. And Michele, I believe this is your slide. So you want to take it away?
Absolutely. So we're going to take a scope, which is in STEMscopes, but it's also a PE from NGSS. So we're going to take energy and speed, and we're going to break it down and use that planning document that Ashley just showed you and show you how we would use that planning document in streamlining our instruction with our students. So on the first page of a scope in STEMscopes has all your standards information that you need. So you don't have to go outside of STEMscopes to go and search for your standards. So it's all found within here. So you're going to want to take a look at your standard information before you even begin constructing what your summative is going to be, because you have to decide what do your students have to walk away knowing and doing. So this is NGSS, but if you're North Carolina, obviously you use North Carolina. If you're Texas, you use your Texas standards. So you would look at your standards and create a know and do chart. Oops, go ahead to the next one. Okay, so in this case, the scope that Ashley and I are going to model for you today is this is the standard that we're working with today. So it says use evidence to construct an explanation relating the speed of an object to the energy of that object. And then there's a 3-dimensional focus here. So there's a science and engineering practice, a disciplinary core idea, and a cross-cutting concept. Now your standards for your state might look a little differently. So you would just break down your standard. And then we're going to go ahead and use this standard to create a know and do chart. So the know and do chart would look like this. So this is a breakdown of what the teacher would do. What do the students have to walk away knowing? And what do the students have to walk away being able to do? And that determines what is essential and what is not for us to cover within that series of lessons, right? So Ashley, if you can go back to that previous slide real quick.
This thing, I'm sorry. I'm like, I need to.
That's okay. So in here, we're just going to use the chat real quick. So do you guys, in looking at this particular standard, do you guys see something in here the students would have to walk away knowing, which are your nouns? What would be a couple items that you guys see looking at this slide that your students would have to walk away knowing? And like I said, we're kind of looking at vocabulary in this case. Energy transfer between objects, excellent. Measurement, what is energy? Energy and speed, excellent. Constructing an explanation, Jen, that's awesome. That's going to fall underneath the do. That's what they have to walk away being able to do, is construct an explanation. You guys are awesome. So you guys are getting this whole breaking down of the standards. So Ashley, go ahead and go to the next slide. And then the next one. So to save time, Ashley and I kind of broke down the standard, here And you're absolutely right, recognizing patterns. So we would add to our do, recognizing patterns. So we have speed, energy transfer, constructing an explanation, recognizing patterns. So that's what the students, and once you do this and you break down what they have to know and do by unpacking your standard, you now can start the construction of your, picking your summative. So which summative is going to be the best choice to meet those standards? So Ashley, would you like to take it from here?
Yes. So this is really one thing that we want to highlight to you during this time of virtual learning is just take a step away from the traditional summative options. In STEMscopes, we are built on the 5E model. We do also have an intervention and acceleration. And so the first thing that Michele and I have done is we just made a list of possible summative options that you could use. Now you will notice that we have gone beyond the traditional multiple choice questions, giving them that test. Let's look at some of these things that we have said, okay, what are some things that we can do? So we can introduce the phenomena question, and the students can answer the question using a variety of evidence from the selected activities. So we could look at that. In our STEMscopedia is a textbook, but there is a connecting with your child activity. And it's perfect because at home, with the students at home, it's just using those at-home materials. So students are creating a ramp, using a marble to measure how far it pushes a paper clip. So we could use that as our summative option. In the explain, this is a really cool piece. We have a piece called Communicate Science. And it's really neat because we want the students to communicate, to be able to talk, use those vocabulary words. And as a teacher, we're listening and we're seeing, okay, are they using them in the right context? Are they able to explain what they're learning? So they have a Communicate Science piece. And this one, they work together. It looks like they're discussing how the shape of things, how that relates to how fast they move. And we have a claim evidence reasoning, which, as you know, is a higher level assessment. So they're just going to apply what they've learned to the claim evidence reasoning. And we have picked a piece from our evaluate, an open-ended response. This is 3 questions that they would have to write about. Writing is always a great opportunity to see what they have learned. But then we also have added an art piece. So in this virtual learning environment, really thinking outside the box and having the students maybe create some art piece. Most of the time students have crayons at home or paper or even, a pencil, something that they can use to create an art piece. We might even want to say, my students can create a flip book at home. And if they're able to zoom in with me and show me their flip book, we could use that as our summative option. So we really wanted to show you this step 1. Let's think outside that traditional multiple choice question. What can we do in this virtual environment? And even if you don't have STEMscopes, I encourage you to look through your entire curriculum and really pull out some of those pieces that you might not have necessarily thought, that might be a good summative option. So also what I want to let you know is that you could pair items together. Remember, this summative assessment doesn't just have to be the claim evidence reasoning. It could actually be like, maybe I'm going to give them the CER, but then I want them to do an art piece as well. So it doesn't just have to be one thing. It can be multiple things. And so as you can see here, we have decided for this training today that we're going to focus on the claim evidence reasoning. So that's going to be our evaluate piece. So now we're going to step 1. So if you have that planning document open, we're just going to fill this in. So if you look here, these are the same items that we have listed on that page, but just for our choice today, it's going to be the CER. So now let's talk about how can I use this synchronously and asynchronously. So we're going to start with that end goal. So synchronously, what we want the students to do is we want them to make an initial attempt after we have introduced the scope's investigative phenomena. So we want them to attempt it. Then we want to help facilitate discussion between the students to help them revise their thinking. Now, asynchronously, how we can use this is something that we can just give to them and they can work on independently, or we could use collaborative structures using a Google Doc created by you, the teacher. So this is really our step 1, our end goal. How are we going to have the students demonstrate their learning? Now, step 2, we are going to have to introduce the concept. So how are we going to engage the students, pique their interest, stimulate that curiosity and excitement? So some of our choices that you can look at, you can see are going to be like the investigative phenomena. We can give them a video that they can watch. We can give them a data tuva set. We can, in the Elaborate, STEMscopes has a component called Science Today, which is a current event, or we can give them a math connection. So once again, really think outside that box of what can we give them? Because what we want students to see, especially in this engage section, is that giving students real science problems to solve, that they have to use data and they have to collect evidence, really will make them feel like a real scientist. And so we want them to really experience that opening activity, something that's going to get them thinking, get them excited. And so sometimes when they have to collect data and they have to look at things, the students are more invested in that concept. So for today, and we're going to go over this, what we're going to be doing, but we are going to choose the investigative phenomena. We're going to give the students a video that they are going to watch and create questions from. So synchronously, how could I use this? We could show a video, which we're going to do, or demonstrate the phenomena in action by guided discourse. We could have the students brainstorm ideas, questions using the chat, using a polling feature, or we could even put the students in smaller breakout rooms. Now, asynchronously, what we could do is we could assign the same video or the photo to the student, and we could share guiding questions with the students so they could focus their thinking and record their answers as they are exploring that phenomena. So let's go into our lesson overview. So today we are going to be looking at 8 different sessions for this energy and speed lesson. So this is just a quick overview of what we're going to be going through today. You can see session 1 and 2 are highlighted. So what we're going to do, session 1 is asynchronously, is we're going to introduce that investigative phenomena. Then session 2, this means together, what are we going to do? We're going to introduce that summative CER, and we're going to discuss that phenomena. Now, if you just look on day 3, session 4, session 3, session 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you will see that we have pulled pieces from our curriculum and paired them in that explore, explain cycle, and also that elaborate, and then that evaluate step 5. Now, one thing that we want to tell you about these, a session does not have to be a class period. So when you're looking at your curriculum and you're really trying to see, okay, how am I going to plan? Don't think of days to begin with. I want you to pair those items together, and then you'll be able to adjust based on the time that you have with your class. So that's why we didn't do days. We just did sessions, because we know a session might be maybe session 1, we get through session 1 and session 2 on day 1. But maybe session 3, it's going to take us a little bit longer because the kids are really getting into it. They're asking deep questions. And then session 3 might take me 1 or 2 days. So when you're planning, once again, use that document, pick items that go together, then adjust based on your students. So let's move on. So this is our first session 1. This is going to be where we are going to introduce the investigative phenomena to the students. So how is the speed of a moving object related to the amount of energy it has to transfer to another object? So we're going to click on this video, and I want you to look at this video. I'm going to make it larger. Wow, let's watch that one more time, because the first time I watched it, I was just blown away by this. So let's watch it one more time. So as I show this video to my students, I'm going to be asking them, have you ever wondered how the speed of the bat relates to the energy it transfers to a baseball? I'll show them this video, And then they will answer the questions or generate their own questions. And you could even create a driving question board. I know that when I showed this to my students, they said, wait a minute, is that a squishy baseball? Like, why did the baseball squish? They might even come up with questions on their own. So is there anything that a question that you could come up with about this video that you would like to put in the chat? Let's see, I'm going to jump on over to the chat and check it out. I know, wow, right? It's crazy.
I see a lot of those, Ashley. It's a cool video to see because students don't realize that's what happens to a baseball when it hits a bat, right?
My students wanted to, from this video, they wanted to go test it out with an iPhone with that slow motion camera to see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Is the ripple the energy moving? I like that. What is the bat made out of? That's exactly what your students are going to ask.
They're going to say, wait, show me that again. Wait, show me that again.
How fast was the ball and the bat moving?
Mm-hmm. Is that a softball? Yes, exactly. That's what my students said. They said, wait a minute, wait, is that one of those balls that you give the T-ball kids that won't hurt them when they get hit by it? Yeah. So this is the first thing that we are going to be doing. We can assign this to them asynchronously. So just imagine you show this video maybe via Zoom, maybe you assign it. If you're a STEMscopes user, you have the ability to assign this to your students. So they all pull it up and they watch it. Then from there, they create the questions of their own, maybe that they send to you, or, oh, whoops, wrong one. Shouldn't have clicked on the video. Or, oops, sorry, go back. Or synchronously, we are going to then change it up where they're actually going to work together. So Michele, do you want to take this one?
Sure, absolutely. So what we're giving you in our lesson planning sequence here, guys, is different asynchronous and synchronous options based on your schedule. Everyone's schedule is kind of different right now on how much synchronous or asynchronous time you have with your students. So after Ashley would introduce that asynchronously, so you would assign the video to them with a series of questions through STEMscopes digitally, then you might have some synchronous time, right? So now we're together and we're going to talk about all those questions that they came up with regarding looking at that baseball and bat video, right? So the teacher would discuss that investigative phenomena question and just say, hey guys, let's think about this for a second. You know, the speed of a moving object related to the energy. Do you think the speed of that baseball had anything to do, or the bat swing had anything to do with the amount of energy that was transferred? So the speed of the bat swing, did that have to do with the energy that was transferred to the ball? And then we want to go ahead and we want to make sure that we introduce the summative. So Ashley and I have decided that for this particular series of lessons, we are going to use that CER, which is under the Evaluate tab in STEMscopes, as our summative. So we would go ahead and read the summative to them, the scenario. Tommy and his dad went to a baseball game. And during the first inning, Tommy noticed that the batter swung the bat, and I just have to move my chat box very fast, and the bat connected with the ball, and the ball rocketed off the bat. And so you would read through that scenario and then give them this prompt. But instead of giving them the prompt right away, right now, as you're introducing, I'm going to turn that into a question. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Padlet. So Ashley's going to go ahead and click on the Padlet. How many are you guys familiar with Padlet? Go ahead and use the chat.
Yes. Somebody said yes.
Oh, good.
Yep. Yes.
Good. Love
Yes,
Padlet.
love
Yep,
Padlet.
I do too. So Ken went ahead and put the link to Padlet. So if you want to go to our Padlet, you certainly can. It's in there right now in the chat. So here's our Padlet. And I like to use a Padlet as a reflective option, a reflective board throughout an entire series of lessons when I'm covering a standard, right? So the first one I'm going to have here in the first column here, I'm going to have make a prediction. Which type of swing had the most energy? So do you guys think, let's think about that prompt, think about that scenario. What type of swing would have the most energy? Thank you, Catherine. So I would have my students put their name at the top where it says topic, and then they would add their answer in below. And so that gives me an opportunity as a teacher to quickly review where are we coming from. Students can share their experiences, right? And then as you can see, I've created just for today's session, additional columns so that we're going to use this as a reflective, kind of like you can even use it as a driving question board if you wanted to, as you go through this entire scope. Okay, so they're going to make their predictions, and that's how we're going to kick off our summative. So then we're going to come here and we're going to take a look at our lesson overview again. So we've completed session 1, we've completed session 2, and now we're going to head into session 3. So in session 3, we're going to have that explore, explain cycle. So remember, we've introduced, we have our end product now, we've broken down our standards, we've unpacked our standards, we have our end product, we've introduced it and engaged our students with that phenomena, which was outstanding with the bat and the ball. And now we've introduced our summative. So now we're going to go ahead and pick those experiences, and we're going to be very particular in how we pick our experiences, because remember, we're all relating right back to that phenomena. So we're going to go ahead and in taking a look at the hook, your choice is the hook. So Ashley and I chose the hook, and synchronously you can assign the hook to the student. So we have virtual learning scopes within STEMscopes. You can actually assign it where we have one of our employees going ahead through that activity. So you would assign it with some series of questions for the students to answer. And that can be done asynchronously. And then synchronously, you can go ahead and assign it. And then you can also play that video to the students and then have that discussion collaboratively as a whole group. You can also put them into breakout rooms for a small group collaboration. So either way, so this is what our virtual learning scopes look like. So Ashley's going to go ahead and take you to that virtual learning scope so you can just kind of see where it's at.
Hold on, let me get there. Let me, I don't know why it's not linking. Let me look real quick.
Sure. So the hook is Karen. So the hook is one of the experiences we chose to use for this. So you have a hook and then you have a series of explorers and STEMscopes to choose from. So we're going to choose for our experiences, we're choosing the hook, we're choosing an explore, and we're choosing a PhET simulation in order to give the students all the tools that they need to successfully answer that claim evidence reasoning, argue from evidence at the end of the scope, which was part of the standard. Excellent question.
Oh, it's so good to see everybody. Hi, my name's Melissa, and I have a friend over here somewhere.
Ashley, if you want to forward to third, I think it's 3:30.
Okay. To kind of
up a little bit.
there's
Sorry,
a couple
all
that
these
I
things
just
are kind of in the way with
directions on
the.
what to do.
That's okay.
Slow. Okay, and pay attention to moving your arms as well.
Oh, my little bar is right on top of it.
Okay, and stop. Perfect. Oh, you did that great. Okay, now we're going to amp it up a little bit more.
Do you want me to?
Okay.
You can go ahead and stop it now. So she's going to walk them through what they're supposed to do, and she has them standing up and moving and walking and actually walking through the experience. With that, as you can see, Ashley, if you can go back to that real quick, you're then going to want to have some sense making. So after students actually do the activity, which is walking and running, and which one required more energy, and talking about where energy is coming from, and when you walk and you run, what obviously requires more energy, the students are going to be asked a series of questions. So with this particular activity, you can easily do it asynchronously by just assigning it, having the students watch the video and answer the questions, turn them into you. Or you can do it together where they stand up and they walk and they follow along with the video, and then you can use these questions for discussion. So either way, you can use this hook to get them excited and start talking about energy. And since they're experiencing it, they're going to have that hands-on feeling of what required more energy, walking or running in place. So we're going to kick it off with the hook, ultimately leading to that summative CER, which what requires more energy and how is that energy transferred, and which swing on a bat would have transfer more energy. So ultimately leading to that question.
And this is just the slide you just went over. So
yeah, and this is what I just went over. So sense making.
So now session 4, we are going to look at that explore. So now we're going to actually give them another hands-on to collect data through. So once again, this is going to be where we're going to look at that explore. We're going to look at those hands-on investigations. And how could we do that? So explore 1 in STEMscopes, we have multiple explorers. So this is we're going to pick explore 1. Synchronously, we can facilitate students' completion of this hands-on. What we're going to show you is that I have created a video, a teacher created video that I could just send asynchronously to my students to watch. But synchronously, we could have them watch the video, then they could set it up at, go into breakout rooms and discuss it. They could set it up on their own, but this is really giving us that first hands-on piece. So here is my Explore video that is the teacher that I created.
Hey, welcome back, class. It's Miss Mathis, and today we are going to let's get started setting up this investigation. Okay, to set up the investigation, I have a book.
So as you can see, I'm not going to play this whole video for you because it's 4 minutes, but I go through and I actually complete the investigation for them. And then I have my trials that I will show them. One thing to talk about when you're thinking about creating videos for your students, don't try, it doesn't have to be perfect, as you know. The students like to see that we're human and that we, sometimes might drop, like in this one, the golf ball rolls off the table. But one thing that you could also do is you could do one trial, because as you can see, this is a pretty lengthy investigation. And if I went through all of these different intervals and then went through every single trial, it would be a 20-minute video. But one thing that you could do is you could show each trial one time and then provide them the data for the second and third trials. And then you can't see this other column here, but then the students would calculate the average based on those different trials. So this is a quick little explore video that you, the teacher, could create. Really, when you're looking at those hands-on, you really want to look and see, okay, most of these you can do at home, but remember in these, you might have to adjust. This one said a whiteboard. I just got a piece of paper and created my own little trial board on there. Now, what we can do is we could refer back to the Padlet. So when we click back on this Padlet, you will see a new column that says new facts that I learned or an I wonder statement, because we always want the kids to go back to that driving question. So how did the speed affect that it actually hits a little jingle ball and then it makes a sound. So they could do new facts that they learned or an I wonder statement. So always referring back to that Padlet. So now the next thing that we can do,
hey, welcome back, class.
Let's get off of that with me. Woo. The next thing that we need to do every time we do a hands-on, we need to provide them an opportunity for sense making. They have to be able to explain their thinking and what they've observed. So one thing that you could look at is in STEMscopes, we have a CER for the different hands-on. So we're providing them a claim evidence reasoning, not the summative one, but a claim evidence reasoning for that hands-on. So synchronously, I could place the students into breakout groups to answer it. Asynchronously, I can assign the students to complete it independently. So if you look here, we're going to be, the claim is, use scientific reasoning to explain which ramp interval caused the ball to have the most energy. So from there, the students would fill out their claim based on that evidence and then provide that reasoning, which is going to include that using those appropriate terms. So this is going to be how we are making sense making from that activity. So if you look, we just did that Explore 1, we gave them a data table, they collected data, then they provided a CER. Or we provided them a CER for sense making. And I know we're almost out of time, so I know that we're getting close, so I'm going to try to go a little bit faster. So I'm sorry that I'm going to be talking fast now. But session 5, we want to give them another opportunity to collect data and also make sense of it with the session 5 and session 6. So what you can see here is maybe after that video that we provided the students, now we're going to give them some vocabulary opportunities. So I wanted to show you this because in STEMscope, sometimes teachers don't know that this is here, but we do have a vocabulary slideshow, which you can see here. And the slideshow, you'll see this arrow. I just move that over and the vocabulary words will scroll on through. However, we want this to be more interactive for our students. So if you look at the image down below, I've actually changed this into a flashcard. So what's really cool about this is that you will see that the definition is not there. So what I could have the students do is they could create their own flashcards at home. Everybody probably has a piece of paper and a pencil at least at home. So I could say, here's the image for decrease. What do you think your scientific explanation is or your scientific definition for decrease? and have them write their own definition. And then I could flip it over. If you just click on the flashcard or you click on here, it'll just flip over and it'll tell you the scientific definition. I could also have them write and explain why this picture goes along with that vocabulary word and relate it back to that hands-on opportunity. So we really want to give them that opportunity to connect that hands-on to the vocabulary that they have learned. So now moving on, step 4, let me see. Oh, this is another thing. Oh, this is a great thing that we have in STEMscopes. So we have this, in STEMscopes, we have the STEMscopedia. This is our nonfiction science text. So in each scope or lesson, they have this nonfiction science text that the students can read. So synchronously, we do that hands-on, we can have them, you read the STEMscopedia together. They can use some annotation features that we'll show you in just a minute, and use different strategies to help that reading. Or asynchronously, we can just assign them the STEMscopedia and give them the linking literacy. So now the cool thing about STEMscopes, this page is really neat because this is an example of our STEMscopedia on our site, but I want to show you this gray bar at the top. So remember, in virtual learning, sometimes we might have students that are not on that grade level. So we really need to provide them opportunities or provide them with things that can help them understand that text or to read that text. And STEMscopes has done that for you. So we have the little a and big A is where the students can increase the font size so it can be larger. We do have a text-to-speech feature. So if we are working with a student that might not be the best reader, they can actually click on that little text-to-speech button and it will read the words to them, which is wonderful. And it'll even highlight the spoken words as they go on through. Now, this is a cool feature here, a dictionary button. So as they're reading through and they might not know, let's say what the word pleasant, maybe they might not know what that word means. They could click on the dictionary and then click on the word, and then they could have a quick definition for it, as well as the cool thing is it will read it to them. So now they know exactly how to pronounce that word as well. We do have where the students can highlight. So if you are asking your students maybe to highlight plus, like, hey guys, we did this in the Explore Lab, go highlight 3 sentences in the STEMscopedia that go along with, that relate to what we did in that hands-on. They could highlight. We could use the comment section if forget the gist. If you want them to write the main idea from each one, you could do that as well. Or the students can print it at home as well. But now this is the cool thing that STEMscopes did. So as you know, research has shown that for students to retain what they have read, we need to give them a pre-reading opportunity, a during reading opportunity, and a way to summarize. STEMscopes has these 3 items. They're called linking literacies. We're not saying that you have to use all of them. That would be a lot of paper to give the kids, but you could, and that would be the best case. But we really could look at these different linking literacy opportunities and have the students complete these as well. So this is an example of 3, 2, 1. So 3 facts about energy and speed, how they, 2 examples of how they're related, and 1 question you still have. So in this, the STEMscopedia is paired so nicely with these linking literacies. There might even be drag and drops. There will be, vocabulary opportunities there. But these are the different ways to help students read that nonfiction science text, because let's be honest, it is pretty tough for some students to read nonfiction science text because some of the words and the vocabulary. So we did a data discussion. We followed it up with picture vocabulary. Then we had the students do a little bit of reading with that linking literacy. So now, Michele, take it away for our PhET simulation. If you would like to talk about those.
Sure. So Ashley, go back 1 slide because we only have like 3 minutes left. So I want you guys to be able to ask some questions. So here we go. We have synchronous and asynchronous for our last 2. So synchronous would be a PhET simulation. And then once again, relating back to that summative using that Padlet. And then the asynchronous would be the actual summative experience. So Ashley, if you can go into STEMscopes real quick and go into that energy and speed scope, we're just going to end it there.
Okay.
So I think because we kind of ran out of time here, you guys are getting the gist of how the planning would work. So out of 31 possible choices, as Ashley hovers over all those E's, there's 31 possible choices in this scope or chapter. And we only used 8 to get our students from the beginning to the end. So we offer a lot of choices in STEMscopes, and I just wanted to make sure you were all aware of that. And that not only do we give you all that standard support. So in the elaborate section, which is what we called making connections, is that PhET simulation. So I would go ahead and do this PhET simulation synchronously with my students and use the print file on the right as my discussion questions. So this print file over here is going to walk you through as the teacher, as well as walk your students through how to manipulate this PhET simulation, which ultimately can also be assigned to your students. So this right here is the PhET simulation. And so just so you know, everything that we pulled from our presentation today, all 8 components we used to get from the beginning to the end in meeting our standards was pulled from STEMscopes in this. And like I said, you have 31 choices. We chose 8. We give you lots of options to meet the needs of your style and your students. And yes, we do have it in Spanish as well.
Yes.
And we do have Google Docs, so they are editable for you as well. So are there any questions?
We just like to talk. So if you would like to unmute, you can ask us any questions.
Yeah, physical education technology standards. It came out of University of Colorado a long time ago. So PhET has that, and we've embedded them within STEMscopes. So if you have STEMscopes, they're already embedded within. You don't have to go outside our site, and they're already placed for you where appropriate, where they're meeting a standard. Excellent. And then Ken put in there our 2 email addresses. So if you guys have any questions for us about STEMscopes or any questions at all about anything that we've talked about today, we would love to hear from you. So right now, all we have is Spanish as a language, but of course you can use Google Translate very easily, or another translation program. This is a paid resource, but you can get a preview, Reginald. So if you're interested, email Ashley or myself, and we'll make sure we get you in touch with a person who can help you out there.
Thank you all for joining on a Sunday.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday. And sorry that was so rushed at the end there.
We end up talking way too much, so sorry.
Thank
We just
you.
get excited.
We like to talk, that's for sure.
And as Ken said, stop by the virtual booths and they will give you more information. We also have other products such as coding, streaming.
We do have engineering units, Sue. So we have a whole engineering program. It's awesome. And it takes them through that process. So once again, please email us so that we know we can help you out there.
Or go by the virtual booth too, and they will
or go to the virtual booth and you can ask questions that way as well.
Oh, thank you, Courtney.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Courtney. It's so nice to hear that. Thank you, Michele. Wonderful name, Michele. Like your name. I think there was a couple Ashleys on here too, Ashley.
Yeah.
You, Michele, you Ashleys.
All right. Well, thank you. Everybody have a great Sunday.
Have an awesome Sunday.
Everybody's going off.
There we go. There's still a few on. So Ken, should we exit now or should we stay on?
Great job. Very good. Yeah, we need to exit because I think,
The next person has to come in.
yeah, I think they need to come in. So
Okay. Perfect.
see you later. Have a great Sunday.
Bye, you too.